Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Bicara at APB 50 webinar, Series 2. I would like to make a few housekeeping announcements before we begin our webinar today. Please be informed that our webinar is streaming live on APB YouTube channel. We would appreciate if you can ensure that your microphone is turned off for the duration of the talk by our distinguished speakers. Should you have any questions, please direct your questions during the Q&A session. We will take a group photo at the end of the webinar. Hopefully, everyone can switch on their cameras. An attendance link will be shared towards the end of the webinar in the chat box. Thank you for your kind cooperation. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yang berusaha Profesor Madya Dr. Ismi Roha Muhammad Jais, the co-director of APB 50 program, Mr. Jorge Burgos, Dr. Kaishan Mr. Jorge Burgos from Universidad Catolica del Maule, Dr. Kaishan Kong, University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, Mr. Cheng from the Asian China Education and Culture, Professor Shim Jae-Woo from Jeonbuk National University, APB Senior Management, lecturers, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and salam keluarga UiTM. On behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you for attending Bicara at APB 50 webinar Series 2, entitled Language in the Global Perspective, Maximizing Potential for Academics and Students. Without further ado, let's proceed with the singing of Wawasan Setia Warga UiTM.
Bersatu kita warga UiTM, kita bangsa perkasa, taat dan setiaku untuk negara, penuh semangat wajar. Kita jangan mudah terlupa pengorbanan perjuangan anak bangsa.
Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to continue the program today by sharing some information on APB 50 program. Today's talk, Bicara at APB 50 webinar series 2, is organized in conjunction with APB's 50th anniversary celebration. Various activities are being and will be carried out in conjunction with APB 50 program, and some that I can mention here are the publication of coffee table book of APB 50, exhibition at APB 50, Raya at APB 50, Language and Culture Carnival at APB 50, Larian Kasih at APB 50, Jumbo Sale at APB 50, Pop Quiz at APB 50 and Talk at APB 50, Teh Tarik with former Dean of APB, Heart to Heart with APB alumni, Anjung Budi at APB 50. These programs are planned for the whole of 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, now I would like to invite Yang Berusaha Professor Madya Dr. Ismi Roha Muhammad Jais, the co-director of APB 50 program, to deliver her welcoming remarks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Haikal and the organizing team back there. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. And a very pleasant morning. Our esteemed speakers, Mr. Yang Cheng from Asian China Education and Culture, Professor Shim Jae-Woo from Jeonbuk National University, Mr. Jorge Burgos Munoz, Universidad Catolica de Mol, and Dr. Kaishan from the University of Wisconsin, Eau Claire. Quite a mouthful to mention and to ensure that we have the pronunciation all correct for all the speakers. Executive Management, Academy of Language Studies, distinguished guests, local as well as our international partners, colleagues, students, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the second series of our discourse, Bicara at APB 50, which is one of the programs as mentioned by Mr. Haikal, in conjunction with the Golden Jubilee celebration of the Academy termed as APB 50. This morning, we're very honored to have with us international partners of APB as the lineup of speakers. We're all looking forward to listening from them who are very diverse in their experiences, location, as well as industry. Thank you, speakers, for being part of our APB 50. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, this year we are proud to celebrate the Golden Jubilee of the Academy. It's been a long journey for us in the realm of positioning the Academy in the university ecosystem. If I may go back a little bit to its inception, we have been seen as a servicing academy to all faculties as well as officers in the university. APB has always been instrumental in offering language servicing codes to 25 faculties, in which in the current setting system right now, some faculties have been merged and termed as colleges. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, APB offers 9 languages. Allow me to share: English, Malay language, and 7 foreign languages: Arabic, Japanese, Italian, Korean, French, German, and Mandarin. We welcome everyone to please visit our website to reach out to our staff directory should there be any interest in the future for collaborating efforts. Ladies and gentlemen, APB has undergone a tremendous evolution from a language center to an academy. In 2006, we received our first batch of our very own students through the birth of a new homegrown program called English for Professional Communication. Praises to the Almighty, APB today has 4 undergraduate programs: English, Malay language, Arabic, language and culture. 2009, ladies and gentlemen, gave us another new development in the journey as we started offering postgraduate programs, taking into consideration the 2 modes by research as well as coursework. Alhamdulillah, today it is timely for us to reflect on the advancement of the Academy, future plans and way forward in strengthening language as a field of study. So through this webinar program, Bicara APB 50, and through the hard work of the MOU and MOA team of APB, the initiatives of MOU MOA at UiTM level, we would have put ourselves on a very fairly level in terms of our achievement, in terms of partnering with our local as well as our international universities and industries. And we hope we are able to leverage the opportunities of one another and provide quality education through SDG 4 for our students as well as our academics. For our discourse today, in conjunction with APB 50, we are very fortunate to have our esteemed speakers through the MOU MOA initiatives to share their perspectives or probably even strategies on how we can maximize language opportunities in both sectors, academia as well as industry. Representing the management of the APB this morning, allow me to once again express our utmost gratitude to the speakers for agreeing to be with us today, and we hope for many more sessions and collaborations with all our MOU MOA partners for capacity building in research, community services, as well as academic activities. So ladies and gentlemen, before I return the screen to Mr. Haikal, our MC for this morning, on behalf of the management, thank you to all the committed and dedicated organizing committee for Bicara at Discourse Series 2. Above all academic work, they have been consistently putting extra time in materializing the Discourse Series today for us to learn, unlearn, and relearn. With that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us. Have a fruitful session, and I'll pass now over to the MC, Mr. Haikal. Thank you very much. See you again.
Thank you, Dr. Ismi Roha. So, without further ado, I will now give the floor to the moderator, Mr. Zachariah Aydin Druckmann. Over to you, Mr. Zach.
All right, I forgot I was muted. Thank you so much, Mr. Haikal, for passing the floor over to me. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Zachariah Aydin Druckmann, and I will be your moderator for the day today. Okay, so today we are blessed with 4 amazing speakers from, I would say, from a diverse background. So, you know what? Let's face it. All of you are not here just to hear me talk. Okay, we're all here to see our 4 speakers. So, without further ado, all right, let's talk about our first speaker, okay? Mr. Jorge Burgos. He is a professional whose original training is an electronic civil engineer in telecommunications and management, a function that allowed him to develop his first 6 years after being graduated as a professional in multinational companies in the field with headquarters in North America and Europe, in projects with direct contacts with clients in Latin America. The last 12 years, he has developed as a practitioner in the field of management in higher education, both in universities and in government administration, in the area of student services, project management, community bonding, and international relations. He has integrated and led different interdisciplinary work groups with professionals from different countries and cultures. His academic specialization has continued in the area of higher education, addressing areas of management, administration, and equity through different diplomas and courses, and in the area of government, with training at a master's level in management and public policy. He currently serves as the General Director of Community Engagement and International Relations of the Catholic University of Maule in Chile. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Mr. Jorge Burgos. Mr. Jorge, how are you today, sir?
Good morning, Zach. Thank you for the presentation, and of course, thanks a lot for the invitation today. It's a pleasure. It's a high pleasure to be with you today, mainly also with your students. Thanks so much.
Okay, no problem, sir. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, let's go on to speaker number 2, Dr. Kaishan Kong from the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire. Dr. Kaishan, basically, her academic accolades are impressive. She graduated with a bachelor's degree in English education, followed by a master's degree in intercultural communication. Interesting. I myself am a lecturer for intercultural communication, Dr. Kaishan, and also a PhD in second languages and cultures education. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Kaishan Kong. Dr. Kaishan, how are you today?
Good morning to you guys, Mr. Zach. I feel very good. I feel excited, and your enthusiasm is just contagious. Thank you so much for the invitation and your kind introduction.
No problem, Dr. Kaishan, no problem. Ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to our third speaker for today, Mr. Yang Cheng. Mr. Yang Cheng, who is basically from the Asian China Education and Culture, or in short, ACEC. Mr. Yang Cheng is basically graduated with a Master of Engineering in the Beijing Institute of Technology and is currently the Executive Regional Director of ACEC Association. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Yang Cheng. Mr. Yang, good morning here in Malaysia. How are you today? Mr. Yang, I'm so sorry, but I believe your microphone is muted.
Sorry.
No
Good
problem.
morning. Tony, I'm very glad and I'm very interested in this meeting, and I try my best to share my experience and share some new information with our students. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Yang. And last but not least, our fourth speaker, Professor Shim Jae-Woo. Professor Shim Jae-Woo, who is from Jeonbuk National University. All right, so Professor Shim is basically, his areas of study would be TESOL and second language acquisition. He has earned his doctoral degree from Ohio State University, USA. He is affiliated with the Department of English Education, College of Education, Jeonbuk National University, and is currently the Deputy Vice President for International Affairs. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Shim Jae-Woo. Professor Shim, how are you today, sir?
How are you, everyone? Thank you for inviting me for this session and your kind introduction. And I'm really glad to meet other participating professors here. Thank you.
All right, no problem. Most welcome, Professor Shim. All right, so basically, the session here is I'll be asking a few questions to all the respective speakers for today. Some questions will be directed to certain individuals, while most questions is basically open to all. So I think without further ado, all right, I've been saying that a lot this morning, probably due to I'm being nervous, but let's go with the first question now. All right, so the Academy of Language Studies, or APB for short, okay, reproduce graduates specializing in communication in basically any of the three target languages: English, Malay, and also Arabic. So, lady and gentlemen, okay, in your opinion, what would be the X factor, the main factor, the main ingredient needed by our graduates to reach international level potential? What do you think that our graduates need to reach that level? Maybe we can begin with Mr. Jorge.
Well, thanks so much. Of course, I would say in terms of the experience that we have had here with our current students, also with our alumni community, the first thing is the motivation, and I think this is already solved in your students because they're currently studying an additional language, right? But there's also a big issue that we have to address when studying a language, and is how you get immersed, right, in the culture that you are trying to know, or that you're trying to learn from. Because of course you can have some skills which are having the language, the grammatics, and all the aspects that are related with the formal language, but a big important part is having the culture or the feeling of the people that you are trying to talk with. This is a very important part of the study. This is also a very important part, I think, once you are outside the university or the institutions, being a professional, being an entrepreneurship, or just being a social actor, right? Because as a social actor, you will interrelate with different people, with different cultures. And once you have solved the technical thing that I always call related with the formal aspects of the language, then a big difference is how you can deal with it, right? How do you get different flavors? How do you enjoy the capacity to bridge and to do connections with different cultures, with different people? Today, in a professional environment, you will need to do that. It's a kind of a mandatory thing. And of course, if you are more prepared with the first stage solved, and if you have this kind of distinguished factor, or the key factor, or the wow factor, as we call it normally in marketing areas, this factor is actually the thing that will differentiate you from, I don't know, with other professionals, and that will give you some skills that are really needed in the professional field. So feeling the culture and interest about that, and enjoying that. Mhm.
I see. All right, that's an interesting take on that, Mr. Jorge. All right. Okay. So what about you, Dr. Kaishan? What is your opinion on this?
Thank you. And I agree with Mr. Jorge about the motivation piece. I think from my background, I see the X factor being students' holistic intercultural competence. And I see intercultural competence including more than just linguistic competence that Mr. Jorge mentioned just now. I think intercultural competence also can refer to knowledge, skill, and attitudes. I think if your students during their education in APB program, what can really distinguish them from other graduates would be the stable mindset. And I had the pleasure to visit Malaysia this 3 months ago. And I was so impressed and so in awe of all this intercultural competence many students already presented to me. And I think Malaysia is a wonderful and unique setting with this distinguished multicultural, multilingual background. If students can take advantage of that, utilize this unique setting and improve the intercultural competence, they will really distinguish from undergraduates.
I see. All right. Interesting on that. Okay, yeah. I mean, yes, Malaysia, we are basically rich with cultural competence and interculturalness within the country. All right. Okay. So let's ask Mr. Yang. What do you think about what do our graduates need?
I think if we talk about X sector, graduates have to be able to not only speak the said language, but also convey and comprehend and integrate their idea into the culture norm. Communication should not be reduced or only be defined as being able to see language, but it should be measured in terms of culture expression and comprehension as well. For my idea, I we can follow the doctor's advice. We feeling and to join the new culture and we learn more. Thank you.
I see. All right. That's an interesting take, Mr. Yang. And what about you, Professor Shim? What do you think? Yes, Professor Shim, on what would be the thing that our graduates would need to reach international level graduates?
Okay. First of all, I'm glad that APB produces many graduate students specializing in English, Malay, and Arabic. But I wonder why not Korean? as another language. Okay. And I think the Malaysia has been quite known in Korea as a model of teaching English as a second or first language, because any Malaysian can speak at least 2 or 3 languages. And whenever I travel to Malaysia, I had no problem communicating with people in English. So it's a really fantastic that Malaysian people can speak English as well as their Malay or Chinese or Indian language. Given the situation, Malaysia can be an excellent example where English is not just English, but the English is as an international communication is well trained. So I usually, in my courses, I take Malaysia as a model of, Englishes. English used to be, people in Korea, they try to learn standard English, like American standard English, like a Michigan area or Midwest English, or British English or Canadian English, Australian English. Those languages are considered standard English. However, now in the area of second language teaching and learning, we now have moved into the era of Englishes, right? As long as communication take place, as long as ideas can be exchanged without much without much gap. So I think as probably the Malay students, they may feel also they are compared to standard English. They may feel, we are like a marginal maybe English, but I think that you have to have a strong confidence in your skill as an English user. So I think that will, I think, boost your confidence in English use. So I think you are already, many of students studying English, you have achieved already a lot of high level of English. Then I think also when your career is about teaching English as a second language in Malaysia, as an elementary English teacher, secondary school English teacher, even college English teacher, you have knowing that nowadays English is not just the standard English, became the fashion. I think you can have strong confidence in your skill in English and also in your teaching skills. And then also, I think just as other panelists have pointed out, I think intercultural competency is very important. And so I would like encourage UiTM students to visit our university, also visit Dr. Kaishan Kong's university, Cheng, Dr. Cheng's university. So visit the country where the target language is used. I like to give an example. Last year, for 2 semesters, we had a student from UPM, and her name is by the name of Nithya. She spent 2 semesters here, and then by the time she was leaving Korea back to her university, she could speak English like a native speaker of Korean. So I think it was really possible because she was able to visit Korea and interact with fellow students at JVNU, also, trying to communicate people as she was traveling. So I think visiting, the universities, partner universities as exchange students. I think that's something I like to strongly recommend. Okay, that's it.
All right, that was actually quite interesting. Okay, so exchange students programs, intercultural competence, having the confidence in using the skill. These are all skills that are considered to be very essential and important. And since we've mentioned about intercultural competence over here, I have a question to Dr. Kaishan. Okay, Doctor, now as someone who specializes in language and culture, we here in APB, we have I would say a fairly new program called English, a bachelor's degree for English in Intercultural Communication. And my question here is, for a program as such, how do you think that APB, the faculty and or the students can maximize this degree program's potential?
Thank you. That's a great question. And although you mentioned that the program English for professional purposes is new, what is not new is this long tradition and legacy of the courses offered by the university. So I'm aware that UiTM is the biggest institute, and by looking at your website, I see actually a wide variety of courses offered for students to take. So my first suggestion for faculty and students to maximize the resources would be to creatively offer different certificates with gearing towards different specific purpose. So for instance, for English for purposes, we know that students maybe English language is the only thing they learn. They may have other interests, engineering, science, business, national relationship, politics, etc., etc. So I would suggest that in order for the program to cater more student-specific learning needs, one suggestion is to offer small bite certificates. Under the umbrella of your program, if you can offer certificates such as English for media and intercultural communication, English for cross-cultural science research, or English for intercultural engineering program, that kind of small certificate. So all students will be over general courses to learn the and concepts of intercultural communication. On top of that, they can build their embed their interest to take on a certain certificate. And certificate programs are pretty popular in the US, and we offer multiple certificates. So I think the good thing, the advantage of certificates is to help students understand they can be committed to the field. At the same time, they do not need to sacrifice their specific learning needs or interest. That would be my first suggestion, to maximize and take advantage of great faculty resources you have and department resources. My second suggestion will be working with industry. As this panel, you can see we have experts from industry. If you can offer build a bridge to connect industry and academics. I think students will be exposed to so many more opportunities, and then you maximize the faculty resources, you also maximize the network that your institute or university has. And for building this connection, it's not just a superficial inviting someone for a one-time thing, guest speech. I think it will be really helpful if you utilize resources to building class industry embedded classroom teaching or building internship opportunities for students to really apply knowledge from the classroom to the field. And I think here are two suggestions I can make, and of course we can talk more, but I think really to internationalize your teaching, but internationalization does not does not necessarily beyond national borders. Like I mentioned earlier, Malaysia is so rich in culture and language. Within Malaysia country, you already have so many intercultural resources. So I think that would be some of the suggestions I have.
All right. Okay. It's actually quite interesting from Dr. Kaishan over there. Okay. So basically, number one, in order to maximize the potential of the program, is basically to use all of the university's resources and have all these smaller certificates to be awarded, for to increase student potential at the same time, and also to bridge the gap between academics and also the industry, which is interesting because I myself am currently doing my PhD, and that's my area of study as well, actually, bridging between the academics and also the industry. All right, okay. So speaking of what do you call it, industries, and also what do you call it, language. Now, another aspect is basically when we talk about industry, we can't run away from entrepreneurship, okay, from businesses. So my next question is to Mr. Yang Cheng. Okay, as an executive director or as a businessman yourself, what would be your recommendations for our language students who desire to venture into entrepreneurship?
Okay, thank you. For this question, because for our association, we more focus on industry, academia, and research collaboration. For entrepreneurship, I think maybe I can give some idea and share my experience. I just make it very short one and simple one. Firstly, anyone want to want to be an entrepreneur, you have to embrace technology. This is the digital century, such as like AI, like big data. But you have to based on your knowledge, based on your experience. You have to find existing model and use it as a template or convert into a digital model. This year we had tried and we link with China company like Huawei and some China university. We work with UiTM. We try to modify the existing curriculum to relate with digital concepts and relate with industry. For this part, for technology, like like you as a translator, like you can get translator is a very high pay, can work for international company and perform academic translation. But in my opinion, we can transfer the existing model, like translate company to a digital model. You don't have to work in a traditional way. You no need to work in one location, one country, one city. You can connect and build your network around the world. You can work with all of the partners come from everywhere. Secondly, we in my view, you have to try. Maybe you can try like 3 or some field. But after that, you have to focus on focus on one field, which you have some resources like we have a new project. We collaborate with our China partner. We just do the translation for scholars and students for publication, for journals, for publication, and also for some academic business. And but you know, like all of the ASEAN countries, we have so many different kinds of official language. You can focus on maybe Cambodia, maybe Vietnam, and some very unpopular language. You can focus it, and at same time, if you have some relationship and resources, like in instruction, like in high tech, in agriculture, tourism, you focus it. You just deep in one field. You cannot cover all of the field. Just focus one, and you become stronger and stronger. That's all from.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Yang. Okay, I like when Mr. Yang mentioned that one especially his first recommendation, which is to embrace technology. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, fellow viewers on Facebook and also on YouTube, I think all of us here would like to agree that in this current age, we must never be afraid to embrace technology, especially when we're talking about languages and when we're talking about entrepreneurship and so on. So okay, now Professor Shim mentioned just now about to collaborate, like exchange student program. And also, interestingly, last week I had a meeting with my students, and one of my students asked a very interesting question. Sir, how is it possible for us to collaborate with other universities, either locally or better yet, internationally? So with that, okay, Professor Shim, my question is, Jeonbuk National University has a very strong language faculty. So in your opinion, what are the potential of collaboration for our academics and maybe our students with your university, Professor? Professor Shim? Professor, okay, yes, all right. We can hear you now.
Okay, all right. I think there can be, bottom-up approach and a top-down approach. So if you, if university, if there's an MOU or student exchange agreement between two universities exist, then I think it's a lot easy, right? Based on the agreement, each university can recruit their students and then exchange students. And if the two universities do not have the agreement, I think it can be a bottom up. two departments, okay, for example, or two faculties, for example, try to make an agreement and then promote the agreement at the university level, and in that way, the student exchange can be done. And I think if APB program wants to exchange students with our program, I work for the College of Education, English department. So we teach all the subjects in English. So any students coming from APB majoring in English can easily adapt themselves to our program. And also, I'm quite confident that if we send our students over to APB, it's also possible. I mean, our students can learn, from the professors and from the peer fellow students. So luckily, APB, luckily the UiTM and JBNU have a student exchange agreement at the university level. So I think we can start exchange students anytime. I think that, I think the finances, some students can get the full benefit, financial support, or other students may get some minimal, financial support. But basically, for our department to visit our department, at least the tuition waive can be made, any students, any semester. Okay, that's my thought. Thank you.
I see. All right. Okay. To be honest, I think you probably know this by now. One thing about most of our UiTM students, number one, they're a major fan of the Korean culture. Every single semester, whenever I'm teaching my students and ask them to deliver a simple presentation, without fail, at least one student will cover about K-pop, to be honest. All right. So yes, I think this would be a great opportunity for our students to have an exchange program with JBNU as well. And yes, finances, maybe that's something that APB can definitely work on. So, and also Dr. Kaishan mentioned just now about academics and also industry, right? And how to bridge the gap. So let's address that, fellow speakers. So my question here is, okay, how, in your opinion, can we leverage the academia and industry network for language studies that have a, like, again, just like what Dr. Kaishan mentioned, not a one-stop thing, not a one-shot thing. It has a sustainable and a rewarding long-term establishment. How can a language institution do that? Maybe we can have Mr. Jorge for his opinions.
Well, thank you. I think, well, once you have the formal part solved, right, the agreements and all the relations established, it is there is a need of having spaces to share in a normal or in a periodical way your thoughts, your concerns, and your challenges, right? And everyone has, of course, expectations and challenges, and it is quite good to have a space to share that. For example, what do you want as a language center, as a university? What do you expect as a employee, right? And in this sense, for us at least, it has a lot of importance to go together addressing common challenges that are named on the or are contained in the agenda of the SDGs agenda, right? The 2030 agenda. In whatever field you are, no matter of your discipline, no matter of your context or your nation, in some cases, your continent in this case, there are always ways to find common bridges, right? And to address the SDGs, the here we call the ODS. These are the Sustainable Development Goals, right? This is a very complex agenda with 17 goals, but every student, I would say, and every academic could find at least 2 or 3 where to focus on and where to work on, and in this case, whom to connect with, right? We are talking about health, we're talking about gender, we're talking about work, of course, environment, and and this is why I talked at the beginning, the thing of the culture, right? How to understand and to have empathy with the other, because once you have solved the language formal barrier, then you will need to start doing this confidence, right? This relationship that, of course, we want to last forever, or at least for many years. And you mentioned before some companies that you have in Asia, or some companies that you have in Europe. We also have these companies here. We also have these companies interrelating with people. And every time that you get closer to people, you have to take care of their needs, right? This is why you're in this sense, a customer is somebody whom you are taking care of, right? And to take care of somebody means to connect and to have this common language. So this is a way to produce this kind of formal relationships that are lasting forever, and then that are also giving, why not, revenue to the companies. Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Jorge, for that opinion. I really like what Mr. Jorge mentioned about, because yes, when we have connections, or they are like, customers, and we need to take care of, basically every single company would want to take care of its customers. And also, like, one way would be to remove the language barrier. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, language is very much important. Okay, it's not just what we learn in the classroom, it's also what we do outside of it as well, to use it, to apply it, to break down barriers. Okay, so thank you so much, Mr. Jorge, for that wonderful feedback on the question. Now let's have Dr. Kaishan. What do you think?
Thank you. For me, I really appreciate the industry perspective from Mr. Jorge. For me, I want to talk about leveraging or bridging the gap between industry and classroom from the pedagogical perspective, because I'm a language instructor. I feel, like you mentioned, we are building a sustainable relationship. Again, it's not just one-time thing. I want students to build connection with a certain industry experts or professional. So some of the activities I embed in my language teaching is from as easy as inviting the guest speaker from a certain industry. So medical interpreting, or from media or advertising company, inviting speakers to come to the classroom in person, or over the last few years over Zoom to chat to students. I prepare some questions to relate to my class teaching. Also, I welcome students to interact with the speakers. If students' proficiency level is high enough, I encourage students to use target language to communicate. Otherwise, we can use English or translanguaging, like just mentioned, like Mr. Jorge just mentioned, creating the space for discussion. So I think that would be one of the very useful ways for students to see some new faces outside academia. And also, I think if the professionals in the industry trust you, you have the relationship built, I think it would be really helpful if our professionals from the industry bringing some real case studies for our students to analyze. So as language instructor, we could create many cases, scenarios, role plays, but sometimes those role plays or topics are not that authentic. If we really want to prepare our students with professional proficiency and intercultural communicative proficiency, I think bringing real case studies for students to analyze will be a good idea. If you have that connection, you may bring in the industry professionals, again, bringing a team to hear students brainstorming, idea sharing. And then I think there will be another bigger project, could be a capstone project. Also, when students are ready to go to the job market, if you have that connection, build the rapport, you may invite the professionals to give students some real on-the-field practice, like how to improve your resume, your CV. What are some questions you need to look at? What are some topics you should explore before you endeavor yourself into that field? And if you can build up internships with that specific industry, that will be even better. So students can go there, really apply the knowledge. So those are from the pedagogical consideration. I see a lot of potential in bringing in industry experts.
Right. Okay, thank you so much for that, Dr. Kaishan. Okay, well, here in UiTM, specifically in the Academy of Language Studies at APB, we have this practice which we call it collaborative teaching, where lecturers we would, especially since the past year or so, I think, where we invited guest speakers from the industry. Like I myself have once, I teach this course, it's literature. Okay, I teach a literature class for law students, and I invited a friend of mine who is a practicing lawyer in Malaysia and who is a major fan of literature himself. So we did it. But of course, I think that the weaknesses from my session with him just now, it was a one-off thing. Okay, we didn't capitalize it further. And I like what you mentioned, that to bring in, I mean, it's not just a talk. Maybe we can have our students to do something as well. And maybe to further the relationship from that invitation to come to the class over Zoom or now physically, since we can do that now. And from there, and to bring it further and probably go for a capstone project, a major research project, and so on. I like that. That is something definitely us academics here in APB can capitalize on. Okay, thank you so much for that, Dr. Kaishan. Okay, well, now let's hear the opinions of Mr. Yang.
Okay, thank you. For this part, I think we had run some program with APB and also with our overseas partners. For the industry part, we, in my opinion, for this study, is not only for the only for the language and the culture for this ability also main ability for who want to join in international collaboration for any industry, for any field, like for education, for high tech, for agriculture, for tourism, for this part, I can share some experience because right now we have run industry, academia, and research cooperation base in Shah, in MTC building. Why we do like this? We bring industry experts to Malaysia, to UiTM. We don't only focus on one field. We bring in so many experts, not only from universities, we also from industry companies. This is a good platform for university. How to train your students and how to share the opportunity for your students. This is the new model, the new model and the new concept. I think from ACEC Association, we will try our best, and we will test, and we will share the model with APB. After this section, maybe we can propose some program with your faculty and share with your students. We also welcome your students can join in our expo. We can provide the job placement, the training program, and we also collaborate with APB for industry collaboration cross-cultural program. I think this year we had drawn it for the 3 batches. So next time, welcome all of the students can join in our program and learn from our industry experts.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Yang. Okay, so fellow students, if you're listening to this, collaborate with ACEC, and as what Mr. Yang mentioned, there is a possibility for job placements, and let's face it, isn't that what we all are looking for? So of course, because when we're talking about job placements, the relationship between the faculty, the university, and the industry is very much important. And from those relationships, both sides can definitely benefit. We can benefit with job placements, or even I guess to a certain extent, like experiential teaching to our students, thus widening their horizons. So let's move on to Professor Shim. Okay, in your perspective, sir, how can we leverage academia and industry network for our language students? Professor Shim, I believe your microphone is muted.
Okay. In my opinion, I think before the year 2000, I think it's someone who can speak good English. After graduating Department of English, were able to easily employed by companies, because they believed that if someone speaks good English, then he or she got all the potentials, right? So it was quite easy for them to get employed, English majors to get employed, before 2000. Now then, employers got smarter, right? Okay. After they got employed, the company trained the newly employed for the job, right? So they offered on-the-job training, right? So if you speak good English and you are easily get employed, and then you get on-the-job training, and then your career, right, starts in a company. That's how it went. I think before year 2000 around. Right? It's my opinion, but I don't have a concrete data to support. But later, I think now these days, after year 2000, I think employers got smarter, and then they do not recruit English majors good English scores or English ability anymore, but they look at what kind of skills do they have. Did the candidate have any double major in business or in science, okay, or in international trade, etc. So they are looking for someone who can speak English as well as proficient in other job skills or in other academic areas. So I work for the international office of JBNU as a deputy vice president, and we have about 14 staff members. And there are usually people, maybe 5 people who stand out among them. And I tended to depend on them for doing businesses in our office. So usually they speak good English, but they have other skills. They are good at writing up reports, making proposals. They are good at using Excel to support, their argument. Also, they sometimes know some basic statistics, and then they are able to make excellent PowerPoint materials, understanding, why we need a particular PowerPoint. And so they are usually good problem solvers, right? So I think these days it's more convergent. Even our university president Kim, has been promoting all kinds of convergent programs. For example, English majors, even studying some computer science. I think most English majors become really, shocked, right? They may become shocked if they are asked to study some computer science. I think that's a very extreme example. And then I think the academia itself may have to introduce those kind of skills, maybe in a course, maybe in a couple of courses, so that the students can be prepared for any job market. And then also the academia may promote this kind of a curriculum to businesses, to industry, that they've been also training their students in those areas. Okay, I think that's my thought. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Professor Shim. So basically, Professor Shim was what Professor Shim was talking about here is interesting. Learning English on its own is one thing, but also mastering another skill while we're at it is another. Okay. Now, I think in language we have this thing. It's called ESP, English for Specific Purposes, and I think that capitalizing on ESP is also an area that language institutions can definitely delve into. English for a specific skill, mastering that skill, and going into that field, which would probably increase potential hirings, and also ultimately increasing a language's a language institution or a language faculty's relationship with other industries. Okay, I really like that perspective, because I myself, I enjoy the study of ESP. To be honest, I really like it, and so on. And back again, my PhD is on ESP as well. So maybe I should consult a little bit with Professor Shim for my proposal in the future. Okay. And since I was talking about PhD and so on, research. So, ladies and gentlemen, fellow viewers, okay, as we all know here, academia and research can never be separated. Okay, it can never be separated. So, however, but by the way, I have a quick announcement to our viewers. First, so to our viewers on Facebook and YouTube, okay, so fellow viewers, if you have any questions for our panelists, feel free to write those comments down in the comment section. Sorry, feel free to ask those questions in the comment section, and I will ask them. I will forward them to our panelists. All right, thank you so much. So back to what I was saying. Okay, academia and research can never be separated. So therefore, maybe I want to ask fellow speakers over here on the. We talked about opportunities for what do you call it, like student collaboration. What about opportunities for research collaboration that is highly required in the areas of language, or probably, in your opinion, which area of research that you think academics we should really look into, really research into, so that we can come up with I know, like where the findings can help us in probably forming better policies, better pedagogies, whether be it in English or in any other foreign languages as well, as what was mentioned by Dr. Ismi just now. Even though APB's degree program, we produce what do you call it, students specializing in communication in 3 languages, but we also teach other faculties other languages as well. Yes, we teach them English, we still teach them Malay language and Arabic, but we also teach them Mandarin, Korean, Japanese, German, French, Italian, and so on. So what would be the opportunities for research collaboration, and in your opinion, which research area is an area that academics should focus more into? Maybe we can go with Professor Shim on this first. My apologies, Professor. Microphone is muted. Yes.
Okay, I think there are a lot of areas of research in language teaching and learning. Usually I study the English teaching pedagogy. So for example, like affective variables, like, motivation, anxiety, also language learning strategies, language teaching strategies by the teachers, and self-efficacy, learner-centeredness. There are many variables we may want to study, and also for example, like perspectives held by students about the concept of world Englishes, non-native English teachers' confidence in teaching English. There are so many areas of study. So I think, but I noticed, based on my experience, training my doctoral students, they do not know research method. So if you do not know any research method, and then research methodology, whether it can be a quantitative research methodology or qualitative research methodology. Students or graduate students, they usually have they experience a lot of difficulty in even designing their own research studies. So my bottom line is, there are so many areas of research opportunities, but I think graduate students, they also need to know how to design their research, how to develop research questions and design their research, and then analyze their research. Personally, I do teach because of to help students overcome these difficulties. In my department, we teach quantitative research methods and qualitative research methods. So in my quantitative research method, I teach basic statistics as well as multivariate statistics. And then Dr. Kim of our department teaches ways of conducting qualitative research methods. Okay.
All right.
That's my.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Shim. Prof, I'm interested when you mentioned that one of the issues here is when, especially when postgraduates, when they are trying to formulate a research, they're weak or they have issues with the research methodology. So also, I would like to delve further into that. So when you inform that they have issues with research methodology, what would be, like, in your opinion, the main problem that researchers or postgraduates would face when we are talking about research methodology?
Oh, could you could you say again your question again? I'm sorry.
Sure, no problem, Professor. Not a problem. Okay, because you mentioned that sometimes under postgraduates, they have issues with research methodology. Okay?
Yes.
So, in your opinion, what would be the common or the main issue that postgraduates face with regards to research methodology?
Okay. Yes. Usually, when students come to me to discuss their research, they come up with somewhat vague research questions, and then I usually go over their research questions and then see whether those concepts are measurable, right? Those research questions are measurable by number, because I am using quantitative paradigm, right? Not qualitative paradigm. So I go over their research question, and then whether each concept in each research question can be operationalized or can be measured by number. So I go over their research questions first. Okay, then I ask my students to use already existing instruments, already available instruments, and then if they cannot, I help them to develop research instrument. Usually, in our area, we usually use Likert type scale Likert type scale, and then test scores. So I help them with the uses of instrument. Then the students have to know some statistics, or to answer research questions. Usually they may need to know high level multivariate research techniques, but they can get help from statisticians or someone who knows statistics. But I usually help them with all those statistics. But it's not absolutely required by students to understand all those statistics, but I promote them to understand those statistics. Yes, that's how I go about it.
I see. All right. Thank you so much, Professor Shim. So, basically, one of the main issues that we would face would be, yes, vague research questions when we are coming up with a proposal and so on. And I think, especially those who are doing a thesis or about to do or thinking and doing, especially my own FYP students, if you're watching this, do not have vague research questions, okay? And also, yes, especially if you're doing quantitative, we need to ask ourselves whether are those questions or those dimensions, okay, are they measurable by number, right? Thank you so much, Professor Shim, for that. Okay, I really like that response, because I myself, when we're talking about research, I'm more of a quantitative person. So yes, I'm very weak in qualitative. And also, aside from that, Professor Shim also talked about when we're talking about like research areas such as perspectives held by students to what English is. That's interesting. And also non-native English teachers' confidence in teaching in English. And I think that's these two areas are very much relevant, especially here in Malaysia. All right. Thank you so much, Professor Shim. So going back to that question about research opportunities or research collaboration, okay, whether, what are the opportunities? Let's go on with Dr. Kaishan. What do you think?
Sure, and I'm a qualitative researcher.
All right,
Unlike you both, but I like both methods.
Oh wait, hold on, Dr. Kaishan. Before that, Professor Shim, can you kindly mute your microphone, please? All right. Thank you so much, Professor. Okay, back to you, Dr. Kaishan.
Sure, and I wanted to answer your question in two parts. The first part, I wanted to share some of the popular research topics in the US in foreign language education field. And second part, I wanted to humbly recommend 4 resources for our faculty and students who are watching this webinar. So regarding the research questions, I think within the US world language education and English education field, some of the popular research broader topics would be community engagement. Thinking about, as the US context, we have more and more diverse student bodies and immigrants. How are we going to use language or multilingual language or resources to support the community? And I think during the webinar, you, Mr. Zach, mentioned several times solving problems, and I think, or experiential learning. I think if we can create, all students and faculty conduct research on using language or embedding language to do some social good or solve a specific community problem or connect with the SDG by the United Nations, that will be a very significant and meaningful topic. Another popular topic in the US will be translanguaging. Like as people speak more and more languages, so when our student, it's more about pedagogical wise and understanding how languages are learned. So when we see students using other languages to answer questions in an English class, teachers who are not aware of translanguaging may jump on conclusion and say, no, you need to use target language in this class to speak or to practice. But research really shows that translanguaging is actually a process for students to utilize multiple linguistic resources they have to process the knowledge in order to learn the target language. So are we allowing students to embrace their home language, celebrate home language, and use the home language or other linguistic resources to push students towards the target language proficiency? That's another very popular topic. My personal research interests include study abroad and intercultural competence, as I mentioned. And intercultural competence, I look at, there is a relatively newer topic, is intercultural citizenship. It's built on intercultural communicative competence. And this citizenship really talks about how students use language and cultural knowledge to serve the community. And the community does not necessarily refer to community outside your national borders, but within your community, your country. And as I mentioned again and again, Malaysia is such a unique setting for students to do all this wonderful, incredible work. I'm also interested in teacher education and study abroad. So I think these topics are very popular in the US. In terms of research opportunities, I also welcome APB and UiTM students to study in Eau Claire. Eau Claire University of Wisconsin is a huge public school system, and we have multiple campuses. Besides Madison, many people know about, Eau Claire is also a wonderful, reputable institute. One of the unique things and nationally well-known reputable projects in Eau Claire is the faculty-student collaboration. I'm sure UiTM faculty are doing the same thing, but if we on campus can take students under our wings, train them to do research, hone their research skills, help them improve the research methodology, when students go to grad school or when students seek opportunities outside the school network, they are ready to dive into research. And I want to recommend four resources for our audience, faculty, and students. The first one, you should utilize what you have in Malaysia, the Malaysia Fulbright program. So I had the privilege to do my Fulbright in Malaysia from May to August. So that's how I got a chance to visit UiTM Shah campus to give a lecture. And I also gave a lecture at UiTM Catala. All of a sudden, Kelantan. I'm sorry. UiTM Kelantan.
Yes.
Yeah, but my point is, Fulbright program, I don't know how many faculty and students are aware of this program. So there is an office in Malaysia, the MACE, Malaysian American Commission on Educational Exchange. So I highly recommend that you guys and faculty and students check out the resources. There are so many scholarships and opportunities for Malaysian students to do grad school in the US. So if students take on these opportunities, they can already have many research opportunities while they study abroad. That is one thing. Before students can go abroad, or if students choose not to go abroad, there are 3 networks that I recommend faculty and students join. The first one is called Asia Network Opportunities. So it's a huge opportunity. I can send the link to the chat later. So this opportunity is a consortium of 160 North American colleges to promote education and Asia within the liberal arts field. So if you check out the website, they have collaborative research across the globe. And they have recently, they have a student video competition to encourage and engage North American students and Asian American students to work together and create a video for some educational purpose. And also another one is called the World Council on Intercultural and Global Competence. This one is very geared towards intercultural competence and global competence. If you guys are interested, it's a global nonprofit, non-governmental organization. And every year they have free professional development. They have research and publication opportunities for faculty and students, and networking. They have faculty scholars from all around the world. They have multiple special interest groups. So for instance, if your students are interested in language assessment and in the cultural competence, or if your students are interested in pedagogy, or students interested in language for specific purposes, they have multiple special interest groups. And I've seen many grad students and even undergraduate students take on officers' position in special interest group. Imagine when you are undergrad, you already have a chance to interact and connect with scholars and students, like-minded people all around the world. The last but not least, it's called the Star Scholars Network. It's a nonprofit organization registered in Maryland, the US, but the organization itself includes over 15,000 scholars and students, over 115 countries, and over 2,000 universities participated in this network. Over 42% are from Asian countries. So Asian countries are doing a great job. So I can share these links for these 4 organizations in the chat, and moderator can share to the comment with the public. But I think these opportunities are wonderful for faculty, students to get out of your comfort zone and get to meet people and start collaboration.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Kaishan, for that. That was actually very informative. I look forward for the links for you to share it. And then, of course, definitely I will be sharing it to our viewers as well. Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Kaishan, on that. Okay. So, still with a similar question. Okay. I would like to just to pass on that question to Mr. Jorge. What about you, sir?
Okay, well, you asked first, Zach, about the connection between academia and research functions, right? Well,
yeah,
this is something, of course, mandatory in my opinion, because it's not only a matter of teaching methodologies to students. Of course, it's really important, but it's also related with transferring to your students the new knowledge, right? What is about to come? What is the future in your area? And also engaging your students with their disciplines, their vocation. If they love something, and if they know that more in detail, and if they see how useful it is for others, then of course they will love the discipline more and more. And what to do for that is necessary for researchers to have, as we said, one feet inside the university and one feet on field, on site, right? In the companies, in the communities, with the public sector, with the private sector. Researchers, in my opinion, should have this always in mind, right? To spend some hours at least in a week talking with people outside and talking with government representatives, with private sector, with entrepreneurs, with alumni, of course, and to see what I'm doing is useful for whom. Because if I'm dedicating hours and a lot of effort for that and a lot of institutional resources for that, that should be interesting and useful for something, also for somebody else besides me, of course. And the topics, well, are always different. Dr. Kaishan mentioned a lot of very important topics, of course, and I really enjoy, and I'm also expecting the links that you you mentioned. But of course, the topics will always depend on the community that you have, right, and the people that you are connecting or that you are relating with. So this is why it's so important to have one feet outside the university, so to see what's happening and what makes sense to the people that you are relating with.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much. I like what you mentioned just now when you said that, when you talk about research, at least to prepare our students, to prepare the university, in fact, on what is to come. I mean, I think most universities, most institutions probably experienced this before the pandemic. Most institutions, I would say most, maybe not all, we didn't look much when we're talking about online learning. Okay, we focus a lot in the classrooms, And then suddenly, bam, the world shut down. And then when the world shut down, and then the research interests in various fields, not just in language, in engineering, then there were lots of papers about the concept of working from home, about online learning, and so on. That became a norm. It became something new, and so on. And it was probably in your institution as well, but I know for sure from UiTM in general how I saw as a lecturer, and probably the students as well, if you're watching this on YouTube, how we saw our online learning evolve throughout the semesters. And I think that benefited actually from research findings as well, to be honest. So yes, and also Mr. Jorge, Dr. Kaishan has already shared the links in our chat box over there. Is there? So yes, thank you so much, Dr. Kaishan, for that. So and then so lastly, I'm forwarding the question to you, sir, Mr. Young. Mr. Young, I am so sorry, you are muted, sir.
I think for Prof and doctors, they have their own they have their own idea. But from my side, I want to share with you a little bit with our plan. Because you know, like from 5 years ago, China had invited a lot of new projects around all the ASEAN countries. And right now, so many industries have established their branches in ASEAN countries. So right now we have some joint research grants related with industry. This part is, I think, this is the new research field because most of the projects supported by industry companies. So we want to share this model to your guys and any experts interested in this field. And we also have some existing grants for TVET, for vocational training and for industry training. Because right now the industry investment is not only just do a simple project then finish, because they have to make all of the industry like long-term investment. They have to train local management, and we want to involve more and more fields. So this is a good opportunity because last year we had sent I think more than 10 experts from China. They join this model, like joint research grant model. I think a few of them had joined your faculty. Some of them to PhD, some of them to master program. That's all.
I see. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Young. All right. Yes, I think having all these industrial-based research grants, I think will benefit both the faculty and the industries, and of course, ultimately the students as well. So yes, and all right. You know what? Right now, let's go to our viewers, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, if you have any questions, I noticed there are a few questions here to our panelists. Interesting, we got a few here. All right, so we have a question from our viewer, Nor Aziati Matsaat. Do we advise students to conduct research in niche areas such as between the four walls of classroom or on topics that they're interested to venture, such as societal or contemporary issues? Interesting. Okay. So I think this question would be directed to Prof. Shim first. All right, Prof. Shim, what do you think about this?
Okay, I think when students try to have a topic, between the walls of the classroom, I think usually it would be really great if they try to do some action research. Okay, action research. They get involved in some work, like a responsibility for teaching, or for example, medical interpretation job. So they go to their work site and then try to identify some problems related to their work, and then they try to answer their questions by some systematic way, whether collecting quantitative data or qualitative data like observation data, interview data, etc. So that would be possibly a good starting point. Okay.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Professor Shim, on that. Are there any other panelists that would like to add anything? Perhaps Dr. Kaishan?
Sure. I think I will consider several things. First of all, I would consider if this research project is within the academic major parameter. If it is closely related to students' major, of course, we want to guide students to choose a topic more closely aligning with the major, or maybe within the four walls. If your student is an English education major, so maybe studying pedagogy within the classroom will be helpful. However, if you are thinking about research in general to intrigue students' interest, then I will let students' interest to guide me as advisor what topics they want. So I think the second thing I will consider is mapping students' interest with faculty with expertise on that. Although you may be English language faculty instructor, you may not be you may not have as much expertise in English and international business, for instance. Then you or maybe the faculty from international education can co-advise the students on the topic the student is interested in. So over the past 7 years, I advised students research projects. The topics included within the four walls of the classroom. Some students looked at tandem learners, so international native speakers and language learners, how they helped each other learn the language within the classroom. I also had students who were interested in looking at marketability of language and culture, and talking about employability. I know nothing about employability, marketing, or enterprises needs, but I was able to provide guidance on research ideas and questions, so students can seek advice and consult other faculty. So I think it really depends on what you want students to get and what students want to gain from this experience.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Kaisha. I really like your view when you said that, as us as advisors, we let the students guide us on their interest instead. Okay, that's quite interesting as well, because I believe that from that perspective, even us as academics, we get to learn something new. Okay, like for example, if I have a student that's interested in, let's say, okay, for example, in content analysis, for example, or qualitative study, an area that I'm not so good at. So if my student is interested in that, obviously I will be looking. I need to do my research on that. I need to know. So by doing so, I get to improve my own personal repertoire of knowledge on that. I really like that. Thank you so much, Dr. Kaishan. What about the other panelists, Mr. Yang or Mr. Jorge? Do you want to add anything else for that? Probably not so. All right. Okay. So so let's go back to our YouTube admin. Are there any other questions? Okay, we have from Adib Imran. Hey, this is my student right there. Okay. Hello, my name is Muhammad Adib Imran from LG 2432C. My question is it possible to implement the usage of edu games on university levels, and does it align with the title of the webinar? Ooh, interesting. The application of edu games. Okay, that's interesting. Fellow panelists, anybody would have what would be your insights on this? Applying educational games, are those relevant? What do you think about that? Maybe Dr. Kaishan, Mr. Yang, do you have any opinions on this? On edu games?
I'm not expert on edu games, but I do see the potential, because 21st century students can put down everything but your cell phone, right? So technology, games, but I think it's, no matter what game students use edu games, I think it's so important for educators, instructors to align the learning goals with how to use the edu games. It's not just for the sake of playing the games or just kill time. There is always a holistic picture that you want to put together. So I think the edu games, if the instructor has the knowledge and to choose proficiency level appropriate and age level appropriate edu games, I see a lot of potential. So for instance, one of my projects was having students design a game. It was a very, very tiny, small project, but I knew many of my students were interested in that. Even students just creating this character for the game and explain to me why they created the character this way. It was a way for them to use the target language and also embed their interest. So that's my very minimal information and knowledge about this.
All right. Okay. Interesting as well. Okay. I myself, I was born in 1990. I was born in where when games started and so on. I myself am a gamer. So, but I do, I agree with what Dr. Kaishan mentioned just now. It's not just for the sake of gaming and also for the sake of enjoyment and to kill time. There must be an objective behind it, because it's called edu, right? The edu part must be fulfilled. If we want to have any kind of games, to be incorporated in the teaching and learning in the classroom. Okay, all right, I like that. Maybe one more question first. Okay, we have from Husna Shafira Binti Helmi Rizal. This is a very familiar name. Yeah, this is my student from my critical reading class. Okay, hi Husna, thanks for being here. Okay, so a question from Husna would be, how do we encourage the practice of academic research among students as a normal practice that they can pursue as a passion in their future career? I think this is something that's important, because as what Mr. Jorge mentioned just now, it's compulsory for when we're talking about academics, okay, to get involved in research. And as we all know, students like here in UiTM, in APB, in order for them to graduate, they need to come up with a bachelor degree level research. We call it an FYP, a final year project. And I think one of the most issues that sometimes I hear from my students and so on is, they don't have the interest to do it at all. And this sometimes would result in last minute work, all right, and so on. And maybe something that we can avoid. So how do we make our students to be passionate in doing research? Okay, anybody would like to answer this question? Anybody would like to try? Okay, yeah, Dr. Kaishan, by all means.
I'm sorry, I can talk a lot, but I'm very passionate
problem.
about this student research topic, and I wanted to share some of the successful practices on our campus. So currently, I teach a course on second language acquisition, very close to language learning. And one of our projects, final projects, is for students to individually conduct a simple research on second language learning. So students need to do research, literature review, and create a topic, a question they're interested in, and apply the knowledge from the theory class to try to solve the problem or answer the question. Students can also do class observation to collect very preliminary simple data. But at least a class project like that helps students feel that, or help students understand doing research is not that scary. You can start taking baby steps. A second thing is, I find it so important for either a class or an institute to offer opportunities for students to present the research. If you keep telling students, do the work, but they do not see the end of the work, they will just throw it aside. Maybe the paper is at the bottom of a pot or carrying a pot or something. But if you offer opportunity, push students to the forefront, share, highlight students' work, they will feel the sense of accomplishment. And one of the, just now I mentioned, our university is very well known nationally for faculty undergraduate students research. Every summer, we offer research opportunities for faculty to apply for funding to take students to do research. And this will not take up student study time because it happens in the summer. Students and faculty can collaborate online. They can do research overseas. And students get stipend to pay for the time they invest in research. So, of course, learning is most important, but if you're putting the monetary incentives, that's making it more attractive opportunity for students. And every year, our school will have a huge conference throughout the campus. It's called Undergraduate Research Sharing Conference or something. So I think this undergraduate research has been established as a system, and it's embedded in students' everyday learning. I find that helpful. Thank you for giving me the chance to share.
Okay, no problem, Dr. Kaisha. And I think that's good as well. That's a good suggestion as well, to put our students in the forefront of that. And yeah, I have a feeling they would like it. Okay, what about any of the other panelists? Mr. Jorge, do you have anything to add on this?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, the thing is that, well, research is not my field, so I can only talk about what we see here at the university. And of course, we don't expect every student to be a researcher, but you have to always have in mind to, like we say here, to throw the seeds, right? To give opportunities for those who has the interest to develop that, and to find places and to find good partners or good tutors to do that. In this case, it's always a good thing or a good practice that we have here to ask our researchers, what are you working on? Would you have the time, or would you like to give the chance to any students to come with you to know a little bit more what you are doing, or to invite students from other universities? We have a research internship program here that is very demanded by our partner at the universities. We have a list of research opportunities and researchers that are willing to receive students, to share with them what they're doing, maybe to give the chance for these students to help them in some, at the beginning, basic tasks. But once the time advances and once they are knowing each other better, then the students get involved in more difficult tasks or tasks that demand a higher level of skills or of knowledge. But you have to give them the chance. You have to be also with the antennas always very open wide to detect those talents, right? Because there are students everywhere and trying to look for opportunities. So we have to detect the opportunities and to give them the chance to develop that.
Interesting. Okay. I actually do enjoy your opinion on that as well. To give students. So bottom line here is, I would say that we need to give students opportunities. We put them at the forefront, especially those that are interested in it. Yes, if students are interested in something, I'm a firm believer. If a student is interested in something, especially if it's relative to their academia and their development, we should push it further rather instead of hampering it down. So yes, okay. I was informed by our admin team that we probably have another question from our YouTube viewers. Okay, all right. Thank you so much, admin. You guys are the best. So we have a question by Nurfarah Arina binti Hidzir. Hello, my name is Nurfarah Arina from LG2432B. I would like to ask whether the pandemic had effects on the way researches are conducted, and has it perhaps opened new ways of doing research? Thank you. Interesting question. Okay, we're talking about the pandemic here. So whether the pandemic had effects, probably so, and whether has it opened new ways of doing research. Maybe Professor Shim, would you like to shed some light on this?
Oh, okay. I think that's a very interesting question. Over the last 2 years, in Korea, we didn't have any severe lockdown at all. So, but I think in worst month, I think students have to stay home. From elementary to college, they have to stay home and take online courses. But it didn't. It was not. It was just a couple of semesters only. So, and then I usually do quantitative research. So usually the quantitative research is it's a cross-sectional. It's very, in terms of time, I just go to the classroom, distribute the survey instrument, and then collect data in a matter of 15 minutes. And then I analyze the data. So as a quantitative researcher, I was not really affected by the pandemic. But probably Dr. Kaishan, probably as a qualitative researcher, she may had some limitations. Can you share, Dr. Kaisha, with us?
Sure. Thank you, Professor Shim. I will quickly address that because I can talk about myself and my work all day. I will refrain myself. So I think in terms of collecting data, absolutely pandemic limited our ability to travel to the field to collect data. So researchers need to be pushed to use internet to collect data, be creative. That is one thing, but I'm quite used to collecting data online, interviewing international participants. That's not a big issue for me. But what I was very happy to see was to see more and more researchers embed pandemic into intercultural studies, because how every country copes with the pandemic really reflects the cultural values too. And during pandemic time, I had a publication on social justice, anti-Asian hate movement in the US and pandemic, and how culturally people were divided to look at some nuances. So I think these two stood out to me in terms of pandemic and research.
I would like to add something. Yeah. maybe well, if it has or not effects on the way researchers are conducted. Of course, as you already mentioned, it depends on the if it's about a qualitative or quantitative research, right? But something that I think it's very interesting is that it opens the need, or it shows the need to do research in topics that, in our opinion, were already solved, but they were not. And this has a lot to do, for example, as you mentioned, with social justice. The pandemic showed us that there were a lot of inequalities that we were not willing to see, or we were not seeing, because I mean, for example, access to connection, access to health, access to education of quality. So we as higher education institutions were highly demanded on how to address that, on how to propose new ways of doing things or new solutions for these problems that in some cases were actually more strange than before the pandemic. So when people said we were always joke, not joke about that, but discuss, we don't want to come back to normal life. We want to come back to a new reality. And this new reality, of course, has to do with addressing these new topics, or these new challenges that we realize were there and we didn't saw that, right?
Excuse me, may I add on something?
Sure, no problem. By all means, sir.
I think I can share like two problems. The first one for international collaboration, international research collaboration. For like we have so many programs like this. We bring the experts, like we bring Malaysia experts to China, and we bring China experts to Malaysia. But until now, we stopped this program for 3 years. Hopefully, maybe next year we can continue it. This is the big problem. You know, because when you stay in the country, you work with the research team. You can you can do your research efficiency, and you can communicate. You know why? Because like me, I cannot use English very well. For Malaysia researchers, they cannot use Mandarin very well. But when you work together, you can do it efficiently. You know, we can do communication in so many kinds of ways. We know each other. We can work together. So this is the first one, and the second one, the second one for the, I think before COVID, so many people don't familiar with like Zoom, like some online tools. For right now, if you want to do any like questionnaire interview, you can do it very easy, very easy. I think this is the maybe some benefit benefit. Like right now we can do like we do the cross culture interview, the cross culture like we do some questionnaire. So fast, it's so fast. This is the benefit, and I think everything should be have the two sides. The two sides. When you face the problem, you can get another benefit from that.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Young. Thank you so much, everyone, for in answering that question. And I think we have given far more insights. And whoa, we have another one here, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, by Nur Aziati Matsaan. Some researchers aim to introduce new policies or to change current policies. Okay, how far can these research findings be transpired? Because most supervisors were advised not to be too ambitious. Okay. So, what's your opinion on this, ladies and gentlemen? Sorry, lady and gentlemen. We only have one lady here with us. Okay, singular. So, okay, as we all know, researchers, aim to introduce new policies or to change current ones. But how far can how can these findings be transpired? Because sometimes in research, supervisors would often advise students not to be too ambitious. Okay, who would like to respond to this question? I think this is an interesting one. Okay, maybe Mr. Jorge. I mean, you're in policies. Maybe do you have anything to add on for this?
Well, I'm not a researcher, so maybe it's a little bit difficult from this point of view. But from policy point of view, the government, the companies, they always need the input that is being developed, or the inputs that institutions can give to them, right, to establish or to adapt policies. So, in my opinion, students have the chance and have the how do you say that? We can ask them to be ambitious, because they are the ones that can be ambitious without affecting a lot of, I don't know, budget or a lot of regulations. They are in a stage of life that is so precious and so valued. So they can take the chance to think different, to think over the walls that we normally have. And we as tutors, what can we do? We can be with them on the way, right? On the long way that they have to transit through, trying to give them some counsels, trying to warn them sometimes when we see something that could be, I don't know, strange or dangerous. But they have to move the walls. They have to go every time more and more far away, right? Because they are the ones that will build the future, and that will go beyond of what we all have gone before. That could be my only the ideas that I could share with you about this.
I see. All right. Which is, to be honest, I think your opinion is actually rather valid, and it's rather related to what's happening on this. Maybe our other academics would like to share on this, especially because supervisors were advised not to be too ambitious. What would be the practice in your respective universities?
Okay, maybe I have an example. I don't know whether maybe in Malaysia, communicative language teaching is practiced in Malaysia or not. I think it is, right? Back in 1998, a researcher in Hong Kong, a researcher in Hong Kong by the name of Lee, the researcher surveyed a group of 20-some Korean elementary school teachers about their belief in CLT, okay, their perspectives in communicative language teaching. And then Lee found a list of ideas held by Korean teachers of English, elementary school teachers of English. And then at the time, the researcher found that the teachers were complaining that, no training on CLT. And then the teachers themselves were lack of communicative competence. And then also the lack of English proficiency among students. And then also our national exam policy, the washback effect on teaching and learning, they come up with a lot of list of limitations in providing CLT method. So it was back in 1999. Then now almost 30 years have passed, right? Almost 20 years have passed since the publication of the research, because in that research, the researcher Lee was trying to, introduce the CLT situation in Korea and possibly encouraging, moving toward CLT teaching in Korea. Now, after 20 years, I still use this article published by Lee, and then I distribute actually this research and then share my students. Over the 20 years, has any change happened in language teaching in Korea? So but the answer is no change at all. The teachers in Korea in English classrooms, teachers prefer using a grammar translation method. That's most popular teaching method ever. So I think this sounds a little similar. The new policies are introduced, but no change whatsoever. So it's been, and then I have been promoting CLT among our students over the last 20 years or so. But I don't think my former students, apply CLT. But however, I see some changes, maybe little changes. We have some teachers are providing blended learning. Okay, blended learning. So in blended learning, the students have to read or watch video clips or read some newspaper articles, etc., as a homework, and then from the beginning of the class, the students have to do some tests or activities related to their video content or reading material content. In that way, the teachers can provide some activities where meaning is primary, where there is a communicative problem to solve, etc. So it's a positive transition. So maybe if new policies are not implemented immediately, but there should be some similar, tools that we can promote or we can prompt the change to happen. Okay, that's my perspective.
All right, thank you so much, Professor Shim, on that. To the other panelists. Okay, oh, we have another one here. All right, by Nur Farzana Muhammad Fauzan. Hello, my name is Nur Farzana from LG2432B. Okay, there's an exclamation mark over there. As someone who has been learning Mandarin since primary school until now, I would love to ask on the importance of learning another language in the market. Interesting question. Okay. Well, maybe Mr. Young, do you have anything to add on this?
I think for the Malaysia is how to say is multilingual. Multilingual. Is different with USA and China. In my view, I think this is a very strong ability for any career, and this is the good chance for you because before if 30 years ago, if you know Mandarin, no use, no use. You you just can use it like a mother language. But right now, it means for this is the opportunity for business, for international collaboration, and even for like research collaboration. For last year, we have established some new funding and grants. We support the students joining pursue their further study in Mandarin or English, and you also can get a very good job placement, like from China industry company. I think this is the advantage for Malaysia students.
All right. Yes. Interesting. Mr. Young mentioning it that it's going to be an advantage. All right. So, because well, judging by this code, it's I'm guessing that this is a semester 2 student that's asking about this. All right. Interesting. Okay. What about the other panelists about the importance of learning another language in the market? What's your opinion on this? Anyone else? Maybe Professor Shim, Dr. Kaishan. What do you think?
I can share a little bit. Of course, I have bias. I'm a language and culture professor. I think learning another language, regardless of what language you learn, is super beneficial for your brain cognitively, professionally, culturally, because you are not learning a language in a isolated space. You are learning language and culture. So when you go out to the job market, you can distinguish yourself from other candidates because you have immersed yourself into the language learning. Plus, I applaud this student for learning Mandarin, which is not easy to learn. So you could have taken an easier route to learn other languages, but you are choosing to learn Chinese, Mandarin. It really shows to your employers your dedication and commitment. And also, of course, from the cognitive language perspectives, by knowing more multiple languages, you are really utilizing your brain, both sides of the brain, really well to improve your skills in communication. Because in order to get your meanings across, you really need to use different strategies or different discourses to meet the needs. So I absolutely believe there's huge benefit and importance of learning another language.
All right. Okay. Yes. So I think all of us here can agree that it's very beneficial to learn another language in the market, and I do agree. The Mandarin language is actually it's fun. I know this for a fact because I myself I think it was about 2 semesters ago. I taught English for students in China via Zoom. It was interesting and so on. And at the same time, I would learn a few things. I think it's pronounced as "xie xie ni" for thank you and "bu ke ji" for you're welcome. So I have a little bit. Okay, I enjoy learning, but for me, the language that I chose when I was my undergraduate, it was Francais, French, and that is a difficult language to learn, but it's fun. It's the feeling of satisfactory when you master another language, and also to our students, to our viewers, definitely. There's a reason why you take third languages. Master that language. It will be beneficial for your future. And okay, just now, Professor Shim mentioned about communicative language teaching, and also Dr. Kaishan mentioned something quite interesting: translanguaging. And I've heard that term for the first time today. So within a very short span, I managed to Google. All right, I guess benefits having two screens. I managed to Google just to know what exactly is translanguaging, and it's basically a practice that allows and encourage English language learners to use their full linguistic repertoire to empower and to help them to realize their full potential. Which means, I mean, correct me if my understanding is wrong, is we encourage our learners to speak, write, or translate to and from their first language, or any language they speak in order to support their language learning. So with that, I have a question over here. What is your opinion on using on strictly using the target language to teach that language? For example, if you're teaching English to students, the teacher must use solely English, can't use any other languages. Like if an observer were to come and observe, you'll get your marks deducted, that kind. Or if you want to teach Mandarin and you have to use solely Mandarin. What's your opinion on that? Anybody would like to respond to that first? Maybe we can move on with Dr. Kaishan. Why not you first?
Since I brought up translanguaging, I'm happy to share. I'm not expert on translanguaging, but I start to do some research. Using target language as a natural way to introduce the language is absolutely valuable. In the United States, we have a model, bilingual education model called immersion. So kids will go to school starting from kindergarten, pre-K, starting use the target language. For me, I teach Chinese Mandarin at a college level. Our students are not immersion, world language. We try to stay on the target language, but I think there are a lot of factors you need to take into consideration. The difficulty of the language. So the difference between Chinese Mandarin and English, the contrast is so wide. So wide that if you fully immerse or overwhelm students with 100% Chinese from day one, you may turn off the students and you may demotivate the students. But I think this immersion or 100% target language use could be built on a gradually. So also teachers need to put in a lot of nonverbal body language to support learning, visual cue, or other multiple literacies to support, like authentic advertisements for poster with pictures, infographics, TV shows with English subtitle. All this could be supporting students to understand, but the language output should still stay on target language, and the input from the teacher is more focused on the target language. However, translanguaging does not negate or does not deny the benefits or importance of target language. I think the translanguaging, as you just read the definition, is allowing students, giving students the voice or space. So in order to produce the target language, because they've learned multiple languages, the linguistic system is built. They may be able to use the strategy, different compensatory strategy to support learning. They may utilize the language they speak at home. Giving them this voice and space sometimes makes students feel more motivated to learn the language. If they say either my way or highway, either you can answer my question in target language or you are quiet. Students may choose to be silent if we don't allow them to fully utilize the linguistic repertoire. So I think both have their advantages. You really need to look at students' age, students' learning styles, teachers' resources. Are you able to use many authentic visual cues to support your target language use, and your teaching model? I think this will be good. But translanguaging, I think I really value its position to give students the space to celebrate what they have learned and spoken at home.
All right, that's interesting. That's interesting. You know what? I myself, I think I might consider that as well. It's very interesting. Okay, Mr. Yang, do you have anything to add for that, sir?
But I agree with what Dr. say. I think this one based on different like what purpose you want to learn this language. For like I can share with you. Right now we have more than 300 postgraduate students studying UiTM. Most of them about 30, 30 years old. So for them, if you teach them like methodology, like any research skill for them, like you just use English, fully English. They cannot understand very well. They don't know because like Malaysia is using UK education system. Like in China, totally different. So if you want to make it faster and efficiency, you have to like conduct the courses for them bilingual. Let them step by step. Like the first semester, after second semester, we do some courses bilingual. After that, maybe we transfer to fully English. It's easier for them. But for undergraduate students, like our mobility program students, they very interested and they want to fully English because they know worry about any like they just want to try and they want to know how to communicate in English. They don't want join the bilingual program. So like for the teenagers, they also like this. But for our experts from industry company, when they come here, they don't want do anything in English. They want to do anything efficiently because they only stay here only 1 week, 2 weeks. they cannot waste their time. They have to finish. They have their own purpose. They have close the project. So this one based on different situation. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Yang. Okay, very valuable insight on that. All right. Mr. Jorge, what about you, sir?
Sorry for that. Yeah, well, there is nothing. So a kind of immersion program, right, or immersion techniques or methodologies are always, in my opinion, the best. Of course, there is a few chance for everyone to have this kind of opportunities. So this is why it's always also a good option to look for ways to collaborate online or to do a kind of a cultural sharing or experience sharing online. And this is also related with another topic that you aborde at the address at the beginning, which is if it's important for a student to have a physical or a face-to-face or presence mobility, right? This is something that we interrupted because of the pandemic. Now we are returning to this kind of experiences. But for example, in our case in Latin America, it is very, very hard to for our students to go abroad. And normally we have 1% or 2% of our total enrollment having this kind of experiences. I mean, in person mobility. So we have to look for ways to give opportunities to the other 98%, right? Also to have international experiences or intercultural experiences. And collaboration online programs like COIL programs. I'm not sure if you heard about this kind of programs before. We are having very good results with this kind of programs. For example, last year we reached about 10% of our total enrollment in the institutions with this kind of programs. And this is also a good experience for the students. And it also awakes, if we can say that, the interest in these students to work hard or to see how they can have a presence mobility experience in the next future, because sometimes the fear or the focus or the priority is not on that, but this kind of experience open the hunger of having this kind of experiences. So we have to work on both. But of course, if you have the chance to do a presence mobility or the chance to learn an additional language, some months or a year abroad in the country where the language has its origin, this is incomparable.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Jorge. Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. Now, lastly, Professor Shim, what about you, sir? My apologies, Professor. Your microphone, sir.
I would just say yes to using students' language just for organizing activities, possibly minimally, and then give more opportunity for students to use the language in a task or in activities, because also theories also support more student, giving students more opportunity to use target language, like micro-long interaction hypothesis and swine output hypothesis, and then also like a GPD concept by Vygotsky, etc. In that way, I think the students will have the opportunity to use all of their linguistic resources already available or already acquired. So I don't like the idea of teachers teachers talking too much inside the classroom. Rather, it should be students talking too much inside the classroom. Okay, that's my perspective.
All right. Thank you so much. I really like it. Okay. Students should talk more rather than the teachers. Okay. Interesting one. Now, okay. So we are basically reaching the end of the program. But before that, I would like to ask for our panelists some words of wisdom to encourage and to uplift the motivation of all language practitioners and students. Okay, let's begin with Mr. Yang Cheng.
Okay, thank you very much. I try to explain my idea. I think for our fellows from APB Faculty of Language Study, you have to catch up your major and try to expansion to more fields. Don't only focus your major. You have to know about cross culture, like you know about like any related field, and you have to use and embrace technology. It will make worldwide communication convenient and efficient in understanding each other and bring peace and harmony. Is going to be the most important ability at every corner of the world. So you will be the key person. Don't worry. You will lead us through this journey. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Young. Okay, Mr. Jorge.
Well, first, thank you for the opportunity to be here with you here today, and also congratulations for you to organize this kind of conversations with and to your students, those who ask today and those who listen today also. And in my case, well, a few words could be having an additional language is always an advantage, of course, and it's also an investment for your life. An investment because that will give you the chance to access to more opportunities, that will give you the chance to help the society in a better way, because you will have some skills that are not in all professionals, and you will have some skills that will be related with understanding the variety better, to understanding a multicultural environment better. As societies, we are every time more involved with different type of cultures, with different types of people, and as if you can take advantage of that, and you will be, of course, a valuable professional and a contribution to the society. So this is why it's so important to have this kind of opportunities, and so important to give effort and to invest in this kind of opportunities.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. And then Dr. Kaishan, what will be your WOW, words of wisdom?
Okay, thank you. I also want to thank the organizing committee for giving me the chance to meet everyone here and share my insights. I also want to thank you, Mr. Zach, for your animated enthusiasm. You did a great job. I like a sentence said by a Canadian psycholinguist, Frank Smith. He said, "One language sets you in the corridor for life. 2 languages open the door along the way." So it tells you how important it is, language, for every person. People used to say language is a tool for communication. In my mind, it's way more than a tool. I think language is a double-edged sword. It can be weaponized to hurt people. It can also be used to empower people. I feel like if we have a chance to learn different languages and cultures, it's a privilege, it's a blessing. I will encourage everyone, faculty, students, everyone here, if you have a chance to learn a language and culture, do it. And if you have a chance, use the language and culture for social good, but not to hurt people. So that would be my advice. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Kaishan. And last but not least, Professor Shim.
Okay, I'd like to thank UiTM for this opportunity for sharing ideas, and thank you, Dr. Zakaria, for moderating. And also, it was my honor to meet panelists and also audience. Okay, and I think that it's the foreign language that connects people to people, and also from culture to culture, and then because of our efforts, people around the world can understand each other. So we should be proud of ourselves and also our profession. Thank you.
All right, so thank you so much, Professor Shim, for that. And also, so my last words, wrapping everything's up. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow viewers on YouTube and also Facebook. Okay, thank you so much for joining our session for today. And also remember, okay, learning is a never ending process. Do not be afraid to embrace technology, learn about other culture, learn about intercultural competence, learn about languages, never giving up. And for Akademi Pengajian Bahasa, we have reached 50 years, and may we reach 50 more years in the future with us being on top. So with that, I would like to thank our speakers, Mr. Jorge Burgos from Universidad Catolica del Maule, Dr. Kaishan Kong from the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, Mr. Yang Cheng from Asian China Education and Culture ACEC, and also Professor Shim Jae-Woo from Jeonbuk National University. I have been your moderator for today, Zachariah Aiden Druckmann. And now, back to you, Mr. MC Haikal Kamaruzaman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zachariah. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the end of our talk. On behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to thank everyone for your commitment, cooperation, and participation. I would also like to thank the organizing committee for such dedicated teamwork in organizing this talk. But before we end, let's take some group photos. So please switch on your cameras. So Dr. Ismi, if you would be so kind as to turn on your camera. Let us take a group photo. So I'll do the countdown. Okay. Okay, so here we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's have another one. Okay, 1, 2, 3. All right, thank you very much, everyone. Okay, and that is all for today. Thank you, everyone, for participating. Be safe, take care. Assalamualaikum, and good day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much
you.
to
Take
all
care.
esteemed
Bye-bye.
speakers.
Thank
Hope to
you.
see you
Thank you so much,
again.
everyone.
Thank you.